On a soggy Sunday afternoon at Shea Stadium, the New York Mets are hosting the Atlanta Braves. We pick up action in the top of the first, no score. There was a heavy rain early. It's a sloppy, muddy field. New York starter Dwight Gooden is having trouble with the mound. And with no outs and Lonnie Smith on third base, he throws a pitch in the dirt. Lonnie Smith scores on the Todd Hundley pass ball, and Atlanta leads 1-0. Great play coming up here in the bottom of the first by Atlanta first baseman Dave Justice with 2 outs and no on. Greg Jeffries at bat against Atlanta star Tom Glavine. Jeffries pops the ball up along the first baseline. Justice leaps up on the tarp roller, reaches into the poncho-clad crowd to make the tough grab. And prior to the game, Marty Clary and the Braves were playing some football in the outfield, and Clary shows why he's playing baseball instead of football. In the bottom of the fourth, with Atlanta now leading 2-0 on a good and wild pitch in the top of the third. With 2 outs and Dave Magadan on third base, Kevin McReynolds comes through by ripping a line drive single to left field. Lonnie Smith slips and falls. Ball hits the base of the wall. Magadan scores. Atlanta leads 2-1. RBI number 45 for Kevin McReynolds. Next batter in the bottom of the fourth is Howard Johnson, and he lines a single to left field. That plates McReynolds and ties the game up at 2-all. RBI number 54 on the season for Howard Johnson. 2-all through 4 innings of play. The game remained tied and went into extra innings. We pick up action in the top of the 10th. The game's still tied at 2-all. There's no outs. Runners at first and third. Dale Murphy at bat against Mets reliever Jeff Innes. And Dale Murphy gets the job done. He lifts a sacrifice fly to left field. Ron Gant on third base tags up and scores. And the Braves go up 3-2. For Dale Murphy, that's RBI number 47 on the season. Braves reliever Kent Mercury came on to pitch the 9th and the 10th. And here he gets Mark Carrion to fly out to left field to end the ball game. The Braves beat the Mets in extra innings by the final score of 3-2. Winning pitcher was Kent Mercury. He is now 3-1. Losing pitcher was Jeff Innes. His record falls to 1-2.
Sunday night in Kansas City, the Royals taking on the Boston Red Sox, the first-place team in the American League East. In the bottom of the third inning, with no score, Gerald Perry would put the Royals on the board as he picked up an RBI, his 41st on the year, with a bloop double into center field. This came off Tom Bolton, just dropping in and over the head of Kevin Romine. That allowed Steve Jeltz to score, and the Royals led it 1-0. Later in the bottom of the third inning, the Royals took a 2-0 lead as George Brett hit one a little farther than Perry's. This one dropped in left center field. An RBI double for Brett scored Perry, his 38th RBI on the year, and it was 2-0 Royals in the bottom of the third inning. With Brett on second base, the Royals decided to walk Pat Tabler intentionally. Tony Pena trying to get a little tricky, picking George Brett off at second base, but Brett would have none of that as he warned Tony Pena not to do that again. The famous chicken was on hand in Royal Stadium to provide some yucks for the fans here. The Energizer Rabbit comes out and knocks him down. Then he gives George Brett a break between innings as he lets Brett relax while he plays first base, but he takes one right in the family nest, and he goes down for the count. Tom Bolton would settle down after the third inning. He allowed only 3 hits through the first 5 innings. He was pitching well here in the bottom of the 5th inning. He strikes out Kevin Seitzer. Bo Jackson is on the DL, so he had some time to hang out with his son. He would see Storm Davis get out of a jam in the top of the 6th inning after a sacrifice fly by Jody Reed. He struck out Tim Naring to end the top of the 6th inning with the Royals holding on to a 2-1 lead. That would be the last batter Storm Davis faced as he left after the 6th inning due to an injured knuckle that began hurting him again. He allowed only 1 run on 3 hits over 6 innings. Meanwhile, the chicken continued to entertain the crowd as he pulled a shark out of the fountain in center field in Kansas City. It's not very often you see a chicken catching a shark, but it happened in Kansas City on Sunday night. Jeff Montgomery would come in the top of the 9th inning and get the Red Sox to go fishing as he struck out the side. He got Tony Pena swinging to end the game as he combined with Steve Crawford and Storm Davis to allow only 7 hits. Kansas City wins at 2-1. They take 3 of 4 from the Red Sox this weekend.
Evening Sparky Anderson and his Detroit Tigers are in Texas to wrap up their weekend series with the Rangers. An unusual double play in the top of the 2nd with no score. Lloyd Mosby on first base and Larry Sheets on third. There's nobody out. Dave Bergman at bat against Charlie Huff. Bergman hits a ground ball down to first baseman Rafael Palmeiro. He goes home to Gino Petralli. The Rangers get Larry Sheets hung up between third and home. Sheets is eventually tagged out by pitcher Charlie Huff. Then Huff noticed that both Mosby and Bergman are standing on second base. Mosby gets in a rundown and is eventually tagged out for the second out of the double play. And Dave Bergman is nearly tagged out, sliding back into second base for a near triple play, but he's called safe by second base umpire Richie Garcia. All the players and umpire Garcia have a laugh about the whole thing, and if you're scoring, that double play went 3-2-1-5-8-6-4. Not your usual double play, and certainly something you don't see every day. Next batter in the top of the second for the Tigers is Scott Lusader, and he rips an opposite field single to left center field off of Charlie Huff. Bergman comes in to score from second base. Detroit leads 1-0. RBI number 15 for Lusader. In the top of the fourth with 2 outs, Dave Bergman on third base. Mike Heath at bat. He grounds a single to left field off of Huff. Bergman scores for the second time tonight, and Detroit leads Texas 2-0. RBI number 24 on the season for Detroit catcher Mike Heath. A double by Lou Whitaker put runners at second and third, and then Tony Phillips drops the perfectly executed squeeze bunt. Heath scores easily. Detroit leads 3-0. RBI number 35 for Tony Phillips. Detroit led 3-1 after 4 innings of play. Things began to fall apart in the bottom of the fifth for Detroit starter Jack Morris. With the bases loaded and 1 out in the bottom of the fifth, he walks Harold Baines, and that forces in Jeff Hewson, and Detroit now leads 3-2. RBI number 34 in the season for Harold Baines, but things would go from bad to worse for Jack Morris. With the bases still loaded in the bottom of the fifth, Mike Heath throws the ball back to Morris. It goes off his glove, and he can't find it. But the real damage would be upcoming as he would walk Jack Doherty with the bases loaded. Second bases loaded walk that Jack Morris has issued in the bottom of the fifth, and that ties the game up at 3-all. Julio Franco scores RBI number 25 for Jack Doherty. That's Jack Morris's 6th walk of the game. 3-3 after 5 innings of play. Tonight was not meant to be for Jack Morris or the Detroit Tigers. In the bottom of the eighth with no outs and pinch runner Gary Pettis on second base, Gino Petralli lines a single to right field. Scott Lusader with a looping throw home is cut off by Mike Heath, who guns the ball to second base trying to nail Petralli. He throws the ball all the way to the wall in left center field. Both Pettis and Petralli score, and Texas leads 5-3 on the single and the Heath throwing error. The Rangers would win by that final of 5-3. The winning pitcher was Brad Arnsberg in relief. He is 3-1. The loser Jack Morris is 8-12, and Kenny Rogers picked up his 10th save.
Sunday afternoon in Anaheim, California, the Angels are hosting the Cleveland Indians, and in the top of the first inning, Cleveland strikes first as Candy Maldonado lines a single into center field. This scores Webster and Brookins, and it makes the score 2-0 Cleveland early on. Then in the bottom of the first inning, California gets one back as Dave Winfield drives one to the right field wall. This puts him all the way back on the warning track. That's Corey Snyder making the catch, but Bologna comes in to score, so it was 2-1 Cleveland. Then in the top of the second inning, Jerry Brown hit a single up the middle. This scores Joel Skinner and makes the score 3-1 Cleveland. In the top of the third with the score 4-1 Indians, Joel Skinner hit his first home run of the season. This one goes out to left field, scoring James and Fermin, making the score 7-1 Cleveland. It gives Skinner 9 RBIs for the season. Greg Swindell went 8 innings, allowing just 1 run on 6 hits. He had 5 strikeouts in the game. Here in the bottom of the 5th inning, he gets Dante Bichette swinging to end that inning, and then we'll see him in the bottom of the 7th inning striking out Stevens swinging. The score was still 7-1 at this time, and that was more than enough for Swindell. In the top of the 8th inning, Cliff Young, pitching for the Angels, hit Jerry Brown in the leg with a pitch. Brown stayed on the ground for quite a while and eventually limped off and had to leave the game. In the top of the 9th inning, Corey Snyder added 1 more run for Cleveland with a double that scored James, making it 8-1, and that turned out to be the final. Swindell is the winner. He's now 6-5. The losing pitcher is Mark Langston, who is now 4-12. Once again, the final score, 8-1 Cleveland.
On Sunday afternoon in Oakland, brothers Jose and Ozzie Canseco will appear in a game for just the second time today as the A's host the Toronto Blue Jays in the final meeting of the season for these two teams. In the bottom of the first with the A's leading 1-0 on a Jose Canseco sacrifice fly. With 2 outs and no on, Dave Anderson strokes a solo home run off the foul pole in left field to give the A's a 2-0 lead over the Blue Jays. For Dave Henderson, that's home run number 16 and RBI number 45 on the season. On to the top of the second with 1 out and 1 on. A great play coming up here by A's shortstop Walt Weiss. John Allrood hits one in the hole. Weiss dives, makes a nice backhand, and gets up and throws Allrood out at first base. Great play by Oakland Athletics shortstop Walt Weiss as we take one more look at it. Weiss dives to his left, gets up, and then throws Allrood out at first base. The brothers Canseco talking about hitting in the Oakland dugout. Jose advising Ozzie about how to improve. Then in the bottom of the third, Jose showed Ozzie how to do it. With 1 out and Ricky Henderson on second base, he strokes a single off of Jimmy Key into left field, driving in Henderson to give the A's a 3-0 lead. RBI number 67 on the season for Jose Canseco. That was his second RBI of the ball game. 3-0 Athletics over the Blue Jays after 4 innings of play. Oakland starter Mike Moore pitched a masterful ball game this afternoon. Here in the top of the 5th, he strikes out Pat Borders for the second out of the inning. Mike Moore went 8 2/3 innings today, allowed no runs on 4 hits. He struck out 2 and walked no one. So we take a quick look at these two cute little boys having a great time in the ballpark this afternoon. Great play coming up here in the bottom of the 7th by Toronto third baseman Kelly Gruber. Walt Weiss with a sharp high hopper down the third baseline. Gruber with a nice stab and throw to get Weiss at first base. Rick Honeycutt came on to pitch to one batter in the top of the 9th. He gets Fred McGriff the line out to left field to end the ball game and pick up his 4th save of the year. Oakland defeats Toronto by the final score of 3-0. Mike Moore is the winner. He's now 9-8. Losing pitcher's Jimmy Key, his record.
White Sox with a 9-3 victory. In the bottom of the 2nd inning, already leading at 1-0, Sam Horn made it 2-0 with a solo home run off Melito Perez to right center field, his 7th home run of the year and 19th RBI. The Orioles led it 2-0. Then later in the bottom of the 2nd inning, they took a 3-0 lead as Brady Anderson picked up his 8th RBI of the year with a shot to the right center field gap that rolled all the way to the wall. A triple scored Billy Ripken. The Orioles led it 3-0 in the bottom of the 2nd inning. The offensive star for the Orioles was Randy Milligan, who went 4 for 4, and in the bottom of the 3rd inning, he hit his 20th home run of the season. This came with no one out as he blasted off the foul pole to left field. His 20th homer and 56 RBI made it 4-0 Baltimore. Melito Perez had his first career loss to the Orioles as he lasted only 2 1/3 innings. In the previous 3 games, the White Sox had scored only 3 runs against the Orioles, and Robin Ventura drove in all of those runs. And he also drove in their 4th run of the series with this double in the top of the 4th inning to score Lance Johnson. That made it 4-1 Baltimore and ended a 20-inning scoreless drought for the White Sox. Pete Harnisch went 5+ innings, allowing only 4 hits and 2 runs. Here in the top of the 5th inning, he strikes out Scott Fletcher. He would pick up the victory in this game. In the bottom of the 5th inning with the score 5-2 Baltimore, Bob Melvin, who was 3 for 4, picked up 2 RBIs with a triple to score Joe Orsulak and Phil Bradley. That made it 7-2. The Orioles cruised the rest of the way and won it by a final of 9-3. Kurt Schilling came in after Joe Price in relief and got Sammy Sosa on strikes to end the game. Pete Harnisch, the winner, is 8-5. Melito Perez is 9-7. The Orioles have won 11 of their last 14.
Sunday afternoon in Pittsburgh, the Dodgers are in town to play the Pirates, and in the top of the 1st inning, Cal Daniels lines a double to right field. This scores Kirk Gibson easily from 3rd base, and it makes the score 1-0 Dodgers. Daniels now has 48 RBIs for the season. Still in the top of the 1st inning, Eddie Murray comes up with Daniels on base, and Murray hits a home run to right field, a 2-run shot, his 13th of the season. It gives him 46 RBIs, and it gives the Dodgers a 3-0 lead. But in the bottom of the 2nd inning, Terry Wells walked, the bases loaded, and then Gary Reedus hit his 2nd home run of the season. It's his 3rd career grand slam, and it makes the score 4-3 Pittsburgh. Then we move to the top of the 3rd inning, where Pittsburgh makes an absolutely awful play. Don Slaught calls for the pitch out while Juan Samuel steals 3rd, but then he throws the ball into center field. Eubrey Brooks comes in to score from 3rd, and then the throw to 3rd to get Samuel gets away, and Samuel comes in to score. That's 2 errors on Pittsburgh, 1 on Slaught and 1 on the 3rd baseman Jeff King, and the score was 5-4 Dodgers. Then in the bottom of the 3rd inning, with the bases loaded, Rafael Belliard hits a double into left field. This scores Bonilla, Bonds, and Slaught, and then Belliard gets thrown out at 3rd base for the 3rd out of the inning. But Tommy Lasorda keeps his team on the field and tries an appeal play. 3rd base umpire Bill Hahn says all the runners touched 3rd base. Lasorda was arguing that Don Slaught had missed 3rd, but the score was 7-5 Pittsburgh. Then in the bottom of the 4th inning, they increased that lead to 8-5 as Jay Bell hit a solo home run to right field, his 4th of the season, gives him 29 RBIs for the season, and it gives the Pirates a 3-run lead after 4. Bell added 2 RBI singles before the game was over. In the top of the 7th, Bobby Bonilla hit his 20th home run of the season, a solo shot to left field that made the score 10-5 Pittsburgh, and they went on to win by a final of 11-6. The winner Kipper is 4-1, the loser Wells is 1-2.